Okay, Nick back again. Just a quick talk about the spiritual life because it's fun to talk about, really. Uh, I'm kind of like drawing a distinction at the moment between the spiritual life and the spiritualistic life. The spiritual life, I would say, is about contemplation, and the spiritualistic life is about the anomalous experience and spiritual experiences and auras and energy fields and guides and angels and all that kind of weird stuff. Okay, as far as I can tell, being a spiritual person is a person who is attempting to use text and forms of artistic expression for the purposes of introspection and change and growth. Like if you were to read a poem, right? Maybe the poem will have something to say about like your condition in the here and now. Maybe it will have a few words in it that speak about something, which then stimulates thought, so that you can then think more about what it is you are, or what it is you've been, or what it is you want to turn into. Also, with spiritual living, it's more a question of trying to work out what else you can do intellectually, emotionally, and physically and practically for the purposes of assisting you in that process. So I think spiritual living is about the change of your, in inverted commas, spirit. Okay, your emotions, your thoughts, your feelings, your character, your energy, who you are as an individual, what you are as an individual. Dealing with problems, looking deep, and trying to sort things out. This is a cross-cultural phenomenon. It is present in each and every single religion on the face of the planet in one form or another. It is even present for the atheists who spend their time reading maybe classic literature and trying to learn from that in terms of introspection about the human condition, about life, and about love. That, I would say, would be spiritual. Then there's the more spiritualistic side of things, which is that's when you're meditating to speak to your inner guides, you're playing with energy fields, you're doing spiritual healing, that sort of stuff. It's more spiritualistic, because that's more to do with energy and issues of what could be spiritual. That's the way it comes through to myself. I mean, as far as expanding your spiritual life is concerned, is that necessarily specifically to do with your belief in higher power concepts? Or is that more to do with how the poetry, the literature, the imagery, the art, and the colours and all the rest of it associated with the higher deity concepts inspires you and gets you thinking? I mean, just think about it like this, okay? Tarot. It's art. It has imagery. It has symbols. It can speak to you. Tarot is therefore a variety of spiritual tool, and reading more about the symbols in whichever decks you've got could then enhance aspects of your understanding, self-understanding, understanding of the mind, the emotions, thoughts and feelings, and to give you a sense of structured analysis for whatever. Then of course there's journaling, which of course involves writing stuff down. I mean, within the Wiccan culture you have two books, don't you? The Book of Mirrors, which is all your reflections, and then the Book of Shadows, which is all your meditations and rituals. Interesting. So you got like ways of journaling and focusing your attention on different forms of stuff. The action of just like regular journaling and sitting down with a pen and a book and just like writing down what happened on that one particular day, or what you thought about it, what you felt about it, and how your emotions were at that time. That would also come under the category, I would say, of spiritual, because you're trying to maybe do some cathartic release about some angry issues that's been going on in your history. Or it's more to do with trying to work out what's been going wrong and what you can possibly set right. It's contemplative, it's introspective, that is spiritual. That is a growth-based thing. Now, if you were to like strengthen it with reading sacred texts, studying tarot, anything else, then you could add more to your spiritual life. None of us do this perfectly, and I fall short every day, once in a while, okay? Then you've got spiritual exercises. I would say that mindfulness meditation is principally a spiritual exercise more than a occult or spiritualistic exercise, although because within mindfulness there is the ability to receive images, and maybe that has some kind of connection to other things that you may be doing. Alright? But to the most part, it's about releasing blocks and obstacles, relaxing, lowering the hormone of cortisol, increasing, alpha rhythms, and so on and so forth. Thus, it is attempt to, not quite surgically, but definitely work on your inner nature so that you got different brainwave activities so that you can then react emotionally to different things in life. Again, spiritual. Obviously, a lot of these things overlap. There's the intellectual and emotional, contemplative spiritual side of things. And then there is how the spiritualistic side of things overlaps. And sometimes you can get inspiration from your spiritualistic experiences, which then inform you spiritually in terms of your heart, your mind, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your direction in life, and also aspects of self-discovery. None of these things are perfect cures for anything in life. A lot of them take the edge of some of the issues in life, but they are not the complete cure. It's like these things sustain you so that you can then do other stuff in other ways with the passage of time. As far as spiritual development is concerned, a person who would be spiritually developed, we got to work out in what particular way. You can think about the story of Gautama Buddha, sitting beside the tree, meditating for ages and making himself rather physically sick in the process, but also achieving something amazing and being able to come back from that with the wisdom story of balance, which is pretty important. Okay, so he's someone doing something maybe spiritualistic, which then has a result which is spiritual, and the result which is spiritual carries a message which does people good, because he spent his time in his head, in his spiritual worlds, trying to work out every scenario of this, that, and the other, and trying to quickly ascertain what is the best way of this, that, and the other. Okay, so that's how he could then communicate his message, which is beautiful. But I don't think that there is like an ultimate level of spiritual development, because personal growth is continuous. Personal revelation is continuous. All right, nothing ever stops. Everything is moving forward in whatever way it does. But you can stay stagnant through just working on your work and just working on the physical things, in which case you don't have an opportunity to grow and see the world differently and become a different quality of person. So therefore, the spiritual life, run alongside everything else, is a good thing. And I would say, in my case, with the few specific things which I've chosen, which seem to resonate with me spiritually, not spiritualistically, but spiritually in this particular aspect, is very, very important to me. And not only does it give me structure, it gives me comfort, it gives me opportunity for growth and thinking things through, and it's therefore like nice. It helps to bring periods of peace in the general storm of my life, and therefore it is good. Without it, I would not be. I don't think I'd be able to get through a lot of the things I've been through if it wasn't for some of that, So therefore there is an importance to it. It's not necessarily importance. What is important is, of course, your health, money, work, family, image, appearance, reputation, property, presence of mind, skill development for the future, and keeping yourself safe. That's what's important for your survival. But the other things we bring in which have importance are to do with like how your emotions are changing, how your thoughts are changing, the kind of person you're turning into, and taking some kind of authority and responsibility over these things so that you can have some kind of like bigger, better progression moving into the future. That's kind of like the way in which I'm seeing it. Now, the phrase spiritual development is used rather a lot. What I would rather people say it is, we have spiritual tools and spiritual ideas. The development is up to you. You can buy all kinds of cool things. I got that. It was a Wiccan witch kit which I bought off one of my neighbours because she was, she'd finally grown out of it, and I thought that's cool stuff. So I bought it all. Those things there, the athame and the pentagram. These things, they're like physical representations. The physical representations themselves, they provide a certain level of strengthening to the sense of identity. And from the strengthening of the sense of identity, that can provide you with a certain level of emotional peace. That sense of emotional peace can then provide you with the ability to look at yourself in deeper ways. So therefore, all of these things like, emotional support tools, they support you in the feeling of your faith. But they themselves have their limitations. Just because you've got like a wooden pentagram and you've got a few cool candles and a crystal ball, it doesn't mean a thing. Right? The having of the physical things may give you comfort and confidence to do more, but they are not necessarily the be-all and end-all of everything. It looks good, but it's not getting in deep to who you are and what you're about and why you're there. Okay? Therefore, spirituality could possibly incorporate both of these, plus anything else on the spectrum associated with any form of faith-based stuff. The general feeling here is that of, select things which are good for you. Select things which is going to be appropriate for you and for your development. And get the right quality of people around you and the right arguments around you, which can then fortify you in terms of your growth. And not to be too intense about this. I don't think there's any real rush to complete what is essentially a lifetime's worth of work. Because that's what all of this stuff could be considered as. What we're talking about is things to help you with personal growth. And maybe at different times in your life, there's different forms of emotional growth you require. Different forms of emotional support you require. Different forms of intellectual ideas in order to inspire you. And that's one of the many reasons why it's perfectly okay to change your religion, your faith, your spirituality, and your practices. Because that could be a good thing for you. And, changing things up. And then indeed, once you change it up, it didn't quite work, you go back to what was better for you, and or things you've done before more familiar, and then maybe do that in a different and a better way. There's all kinds of jiggery-pokery ways of doing it. But it's a question of changing the self and focusing on matters of the heart, focusing on matters of the mind, and growing. There is a serious overlap between the spiritual and the spiritualistic when we look at spiritual healing and developing an understanding of your aura, the levels of it, learning it, or attempting to learn how to perceive more of it as you carry on doing more specific spiritualistic developmental exercises, which I think is different from spiritual development, which is much more to do with your text-based work and your receiving things from art and literature and trying to see in what ways they are challenging you, speaking to you, or putting you on the right path. So, good spirituality, I think, can ground you, can make you feel safer, can make you feel calmer and more confident, can give you a certain level of perspective about some of the things you've been going through and help you to deal with some of your problems and issues. It's not a perfect, surgery to remove all your problems or help you to get over each and every single issue that's been besetting you. And the people who say that it is probably just either crazy or haven't really thought things through, or they're trying to con you. There's lots of reasons, lots of things that could be going on there. Taking all of this into account, just think in an appropriate and loving way as to ways in which you can bring wholesome spirituality into your life. All right? Wholesome spirituality. And then everything else will just go according to plan and get better. I think. I don't believe that there's a fixed formula. I think that these things are in flux and are fluid. But I think that there are also some things which maybe aren't, but it's hard to try and discern which ones are which. So therefore, I think that a humble approach and approach of being able to turn around and saying, quite simply, I don't know, is probably one of the better things we can do. Acknowledgement of our human ignorance could possibly save our minds, because it gives us the ability to move away from things which are too extreme and focus on something which is beneficial. See what I mean? Play it cool. Speak to you soon.